If not the United States, given the political realities in that country today, is there another shining light in the world that can be looked to for the nations of the world that still aspire to a liberal democracy? The US has always been the beacon, the example that is looked to, well, not always, but I mean in our lifetime.
Yeah.
If not the US, is there another that could take the US's place or at least stand in its place during this period of transition?
I don't see it. I don't see another thing because we were the United States of America. And from sea to shining sea, we're also incredibly wealthy. The way we had done our history, the way we had done our model, the way we took charge of the world economy after World War II, the way, remember, Tony Blinken, Secretary of State Tony Blinken would say the rules based international order, which was in desperate need for renovation and reform. We clung to that rules based international order, which served our purposes so long we've lost it. We lost that consensus. The model is broken, and there's no one else that has a model. So I think, and this isn't necessarily bad for the development of regions like Latin America, they're going to pick and choose. They're going to say, all right, the Chinese do some stuff pretty well. Actually, we Americans don't like to acknowledge it. But China has done surprisingly well. When we opened the doors to China way back in the 1970s, I was actually living in Asia at the time. Many of our top policy people thought we can open the door because they pose no competitive threat, much less an existential threat. No competitive threat. Eh? But the Chinese stopped doing their great leaps forward, their cultural revolutions, all of these self inflicted wounds. They got a thing called discipline. They also found a model that, yes, human rights are a serious problem, but the country did move forward and they pulled more tens of millions of people out of poverty than any other country has done in world history. But so the model needed to change. And the Latin Americans are saying, some of what they do isn't all that bad. But they're also looking at the EU, and they really admire the EU because of its reach, its deep cultural roots, its stability, etc. I think also they resent the Latin Americans resent that the U.S., particularly under the current administration, has increasingly been anti-EU, and they'll say, well, but you know something, Spain, La Madre Patria for much of Latin America, and even Portugal, who do actually inspired migration strategies and stuff, they're pretty good. And Greece and Italy, all the Mediterranean countries, and then the upper tier, they like them. They're effective. I don't think they feel they're warm and cuddly, but so I think that for Latin Americans, they're going to play a la carte, partly for personal advantage, but also because there is no single model that they think that they can embrace and make their own.